wake up and learn. Over and over, we gotta crash and burn. Just a couple of months, then wake up and learn. 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 Over and over, we gotta crash and burn. Just a couple of months, then wake up.
All right, thank you, Ben Perry. Thank you for subscribing. U.S. offers Poland rare loan of $2 billion to modernize its military. This is yet another country over in Europe that we're supposedly going to be spending money for a conflict or a possible conflict for. Now, this, I'm surprised people are not already absolutely losing it, that we are now going to be giving out more money. Now, this is technically a loan, but when do we get it back? On top of the huge, huge debt that we have, when is this actually going to come back to us? And when is that? When are we going to feel the feelings of us getting that money back? We're all feeling the burn right now of the debt that just keeps growing. It says the JB administration announced Monday that it is offering $2 billion loan to Poland, which has been a hub for weapons going into Ukraine to support allies' defense modernization. The State Department said in a statement that Poland is a stalwart ally of the U.S., whose security is vital to the collective defense of NATO's eastern flank, and that such funding is reserved for Washington's most important security partners. The U.S. government is also providing Warsaw up to $60 million for the cost of the loan in foreign military financing, or FMF, which would support, quote, urgent procurements of defense articles and services from the United States. The State Department said the $60 million loan subsidy is meant to ensure that Warsaw can secure favorable terms for the loan. It said that Poland has been a staunch supporter of Ukraine since Russia's full-scale invasion of the country, handing over large numbers of its own tanks, fighter jets, and other equipment. It has also been a hub for the most of the Western weapons going into UKR. So it's a huge part of whatever you believe this whole thing is. It's a huge part of it. The U.S. has been a giant funder of this whole thing. We've been sending billions and billions of dollars, and now we're sending more to Poland. Now, if you think about Poland's actual gear being there, their tanks, their jets, they have a huge amount. It's essentially the U.S. kind of just sending it through them. They get new stuff. They send their hand-me-downs over to UKR. Dex, this is really, really, I think this is a huge sign. I don't know how people are missing. This is a sign that Poland is about to get involved. That's how I see it.
The other thing that came to my mind was they just recently came out and said, hey, we're not going to be giving any more weapons to UKR, and they're the ones that pretty much control the flow of what's going in there. And they got into a big, match of words between UKR and Poland. So I wonder if this was the US's way of stepping in and trying to put the fire out, so to speak, there and say, look, we got some money heading your way. And oh, by the way, we're going to spend $60 million on it, even though it is a $2 billion loan. We're giving up $60 million towards it. So yeah, something big's happening here. And, also you have to wonder, when this amount of money starts moving around, what, who's getting their cut off the top, so to speak.
Yeah, and because we know that not every single dollar goes towards where it's supposed to go, and normally that would be sort of a claim, but it seems like every single payment, there has been a story that has come out after that payment of, say, the recruiting office. Somehow the people working at the recruiting office in UKR had supercars and were buying mansions, and the same thing with the 9 people directly under the president there, supercars, super mansions, and somehow they had skimmed money. Now, some of those guys just resigned. They didn't have to give the mansions back, from what I heard, which is kind of crazy. You would think that they would be charged and possibly put in jail for life, but I guess that was part of the deal. So, again, very, very nuts. As far as this goes, I think that this is, par for the course. This is Poland now becoming even more relevant in this. They're going to be putting money in that. I think that money is going to be for some sort of operation that's to come. And then, of course, NATO changed their rules, so now they can load up Poland with NATO beforehand. They don't have to wait for Article 5 to load up the entire, all of the NATO partners that are on the border. So I think something is going down here. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments down below or in the chat. We're about to get started today. We're going to talk about everything that happened over the weekend. Lots of craziness. Of course, there was some breaking news on Saturday and Sunday that was really, really alarming. So stay tuned. This should be a really good one. Monday is always wild. So it is a live show. Anything can happen. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough.
No, but we gotta crash and burn just so a couple of us can wake up and learn. Over and over, we gotta crash and burn so a couple of us can wake up and learn.
All right. Remember, you can always go over to marfooglenews.com, find a full bibliography for every single article, tweet, video, picture, document. You can also find any affiliates over there as well. We are independent. We're on our own, and we are not treated equally, again, at least for a year and a half, especially. But thank you guys for tuning in, sharing us out. Sharing us out is the nicest thing you could do. Again, it is very, very cool if you could share this out on your social media. A lot of work goes into this. And again, you can go over to the website, marfooglenews.com, to find a full source list of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document you are going to see here. Just look for today's thumbnail, Crash and Burn. It's all about the crash. We are going to talk about how China is pulling out. They are dumping all of their foreign investments. I mean, there's so many signs you could. It's like one of those 8-way X crossings, and somebody's sitting in the middle, and each way says heading for doom. And it's not to make people depressed or sad or scared. The whole point is that people should have been prepared for this 5 years ago. All of the signs that we talked about 4 or 5 years ago, and 2 years ago, and 1 year ago, and all of these things, it's getting closer and closer. And it's getting worse and worse. There are signs out there that are literally unavoidable. People have to see them by this time. I mean, we have, of course, all of the conflicts going on. We have China loading up their coastlines, and we, of course, have all of these backdoor deals going on right now. We have presidents meeting each other. We have the entire world dividing. And now, of course, the financial system is going down a toilet. We have inflation at crazy, crazy highs. People can't afford to live right now. And of course, it's going to get even worse, especially if all of the tons and tons of people that bought properties and bought everything else, if those same people dump everything that they own, imagine what that will do. Think about all of the properties that were bought up by a certain country. What if they're all ordered to sell it off? That would absolutely destroy us. And it looks like that's what's being done. It almost seems like, whoa, that actually makes sense. Why, for the last 15 years, every single person who owns a home is getting a call from a certain kind of investment company. It's insane. It's long game stuff. It's like fictional sci-fi movie crazy. So we'll talk about all of that tonight on Marfoogle News. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
Remember to sign up for notifications if you are missing our live, or, again, want to be notified the second we go live, because it varies. Then make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com. All right, and then Let's see here. And also make sure to go check out the mods. If you would, in the chat right now, if you can pop in, do a quick roll call. You don't have to be specific. In fact, just say what state or province you're from. A lot of the times we find that everybody finds somebody from their same state. You instantly have something in common, and it breaks the ice a lot. So do a roll call, and I'll shout out some of your cities and some of your states. So again, love you guys. Thank you for being here. And make sure to go check out the mods that are holding that chat down. All of their channels are really great. Go to marfooglenews.com/friends. All right. And then, Dex, just to hit on this first story again real quick. So $2 billion to Poland, that should kind of wake people up that obviously Poland has been in the limelight, and they may very well be the first place that Russia goes into. They actually are one of the few places that set up dragon's teeth for Russian tanks. Now, a lot of folks would think, oh, it's just propaganda, it's all for show. But what if it's not? That's the thing. You have to at least leave that open. Like, why are they putting dragon's teeth? Why are they digging trenches? Why are they putting up, anti-air missiles and things like this? Why are they doing mines? All of these things are happening right now. Why?
Well, as much as you can say, on one hand, that's the first place Russia would go, or one of the places they've targeted and mentioned. If you flip it around and say, if the West wants to go after Russia, who do they have to have in their court? And Poland is absolutely one of the most important locations and strongholds in Europe there. So, of course, there's plenty of others, but you can't really fathom that not being a significant position point, especially up against UKR, up against Belarus, and the role it's played in the past. So either way you look at it, a great conflict in Europe, potentially a multi-front conflict around the world. Poland is a significant player, and the U.S. is definitely going to keep them in their pocket.
I don't know if it would be possible to take Europe over if you didn't involve Poland. I mean, it would be a much more difficult undertaking. And this is really, I don't know why there's not more people pushing back on stuff like this. The SEC is spying on all of your trades, linking them to your social security number and sharing the data with 3,000 agencies. So whatever little transactions you guys are doing, apparently they are actually taking those, using them, and connecting them to you. Doesn't matter if you think it's a little bit over here or over here. They're tracking and tracing them. Now, a lot of people will go, oh, well, of course they are. But this is different. This is the SEC actually doing it, and it says they're now tracking your stock trades by your social security number, and it shares the data with 3,000 outside agencies. It says a consolidated audit trail that accurately tracks orders throughout their life cycle and identifies the broker-dealers handling them will provide us with an unprecedented ability to effectively oversee the market we regulate. Now, one thing I thought of is if they are able to track everything, and I mean everything down to the stock market, Dex, wouldn't that also mean that if there were nasty, evil people in power around these areas or in these agencies, couldn't they also use that to manipulate the market?
They certainly could, and that's as I continue to look into this, reading the article, that's what they talk about. This is actually a 2010 law they came up with that we're just now hearing about. Well, I'm probably not just now hearing about, but we're going to hear about it now because it's now coming into place. And I shouldn't say 2010. I want to say 2016, if I remember correctly. But going and looking at what happened in 2010, it was the impetus to this is exactly what you just said. The flash crash. And the flash crash was somebody that was a major, I don't want to say major, but he was a financial trader. I just looked him up. He was a British Indian financial trader, Navyanda Singh Saro. They went after him because he manipulated the market, causing this flash crash, basically creating a whole bunch of fake orders, making everybody think everything was shorting, and then manipulating and changing those orders and then canceling them out. And then, of course, when that happens, you can make money because if you know you're going to crash a market, then you can short sell the market and then you can buy it when it's low and ride it right back up. So that's the sort of the impetus, I guess, is what they're saying is the reason for this. But the scary part is every single transaction, everybody in America, social security number tied to it, going into a database and now shared with 3,000 agencies. That's huge.
And this is an important part. It says the SEC issued this rule in response to the flash crash, ostensibly to surveil markets. If the cat stopped at that, it would have been a useful tool to protect markets against fraud and manipulation. But the commission decided to collect American investors' personally identifiable information, such as an account and social security numbers, and share it. Are people processing what is going on right now? It is, and everything is incremental. And what's crazy is I've noticed they will put something in the books, or they'll put something in that's going to come into play, but they'll put it in 5 or at least 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road, and people do not care. The reason why is we are all in the moment. If they told us right now there's going to be a law that if you have worked more than 8 hours a day, you can't drive or something. If they did, everybody's like, what are you talking about? What do you mean you're going to keep me from driving if I work 8 hours a day? If they put it in for 10 years down the road, people wouldn't care. If they put in a law that said that you are only allowed to have 2 children, I guarantee you, they put it 10 years out, people would just ignore it. People are so focused on the now and what affects them now, they don't care about the future. We don't care about future generations. A lot of the time, they'll put in something that affects us as far as like tracking, tracing, surveilling, this kind of thing. But they'll say, oh, don't worry, it kicks into place in this year or that year. When I first started this, they were starting to talk about 2024, 2025, all this stuff coming in. Mind you, this is all coming up about how they were going to put in all these systems into new cars that could stop you from driving if you were a drunk driver. In theory, these things sound great. Like, oh, we'll cut out drunk driving completely. But what if, again, they end up having to do that by putting cameras in your rearview mirror that monitored you at all times? They put microphones, or they put a freaking breathalyzer in every new car, and they do it that way. And think about the same system that's allowed if it has cameras and some sort of AI or a system that says this person's drunk, they're blinking too much, they're too tired, they can't drive. That same system is digital, which means it can then be hacked or controlled by the same agencies that end up putting it in. Someday, one evil person could push a button and turn off all of our cars and stop us from driving. People think this is loopy. It's not. This is what is coming. They're saying by a certain year, they want all new cars to have a system that essentially does not allow drunk driving. Now, that is good. Again, that's a good thing to do. But at the same time, with what comes with it is these extremely evil things that this is what we're fighting for. This is why we spread awareness about this kind of thing. And most people, I would say 95% of people don't do anything about any kind of changes around them. A lot of people have grown up and they've been kind of trained to be like, oh, okay, well, that's how it goes. I got to adapt to it. But then there's the 5% that push back. Well, guess what? Over the last few years, anybody that pushes back against any of these changes, they have now controlled the public square. The public square is no longer going out in the actual public square. It is now completely online. And if they can control online, they can control the public square. And they say, oh, they're all private companies, so they can do what they want. But guess what? Now it is literally turned into how culture and how everyone communicates. Everyone is on their phone. I mean, literally, you see people, 150, 500 people in New York walking down the street, and they're all just staring at their phones. So even if somebody was there with a booth and said, hey, vote for this or do this, nobody would see them because everybody's walking by on their phones. Yet that same person could sit at that booth and put an ad on Facebook and reach almost everybody. This is why it's very freaky that things like this go into play. They put it years down the road, and then people go, oh, well, we still got time. Oh, it's down the road. Nobody cares. It's the same. It's absolutely nuts to me that they are just doing every incremental thing to make it worse and worse for the regular person. There's always good for some of it. There's always a good logical reason for it. But if you realize what they've done with those good powers, it's kind of like Superman, right? It's like if you got superhuman powers, are you going to be Superman or are you going to be Homelander? Most people, we don't trust them to be Superman. There are no Supermans out there. There's a whole lot of Homelanders. If you don't know who Homelander is, look it up. But he's freaking evil. And he's got Superman powers, right? What would you do with those powers? Would you be good or evil? Well, most people, they would cheat, steal, or do something to make themselves prosper. And that's what the people in charge have been doing. Otherwise, politicians wouldn't be multi-billionaires, okay? We wouldn't have billionaires in politics. We wouldn't have multi-millionaires in politics. Their salaries are almost nothing compared to what their actual net worths are. They make a ton of money. I mean, we are talking millions of dollars. And they even get trading tips. They do inside trading all the time, but that's not even all of it. It's like they legitly, I don't know how there's so much bribing and things like this, and it all just goes under, completely unnoticed. And if it does get noticed, it's because they weren't good and they didn't toe the line and their friends busted them out. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you, Ben Perry. Thank you, Katrina Taylor. Thank you, John Murdoch, for subscribing. I appreciate all of you joining us tonight. Thank you over on D-Live, Scooby-Doo-Do-Right, Chance Paladin, Johnson, Renegade Petey, Yobi, and the end is near. Thank you guys for coming tonight. Bound by Mountains, thank you. Is North Carolina Bound. Adam, Dex, and all the Foogle fam. I never miss a show, although usually in the morning after is when I get to catch up. Thankfully, long drive to Ohio got me on a live show. Thank you for all you do. Well, thank you, and thank you for coming to a late show. Thank you for supporting Independent. Again, that's you guys are 99% of how we're even still here, so thank you. Chinese investors in scramble to dump overseas property as Xi's economy goes into free fall. So, first of all, if you own a house, just do a quick survey in the chat, and I'll put it up. How many of you have been called by and I'm just straight up putting it out there, a foreign investment company? And you can put what country has called you. I won't place that in. Have you been called with offers on your house from a foreign investment company, and what country was it from? I'd love to just gauge if anyone has actually had that call, and if that is something that happens to any of you. Just to put it out there. Now, I just, when I see stuff like this, it's absolutely crazy. Yes, I have. Fran Breedlove, please let me know what country was this company from, or it was an American country. Jared West, stealth mode. Yes, India. Foreign investment? Oh, like California, LOL. Let's see here. The Jake Lee 88. Let's see here. Denise Martinez. Let's see. Ashley Eve. Yes, I did yesterday. Wanda Whitmore says, yes, China. So, and by the way, they also, if you look up the company that actually called you, a majority of them are actually based in China. Now, I'm doing the survey. Not everybody's a homeowner. I'm not. So what about your house? No, but my uncle gets weekly calls, and he gets them from a Chinese company. Same with my aunt, my other aunt and uncle. They have gotten weekly calls, and sometimes the offers are way over. In fact, we have covered articles over the last month that they have been super, super aggressive, and people have even come up with block systems so they don't get calls specifically from Chinese numbers because they get so many investment company calls trying to buy their house. Now, why would they want to buy this property? Well, fast forward. Now, if just say this, if everybody ended up selling all of their property, it would completely crash everything. And that's what they are saying that they are doing. So again, let's go into it. It says that Chinese investors rattled by the country's shaky financial situation have raced to offload foreign properties as their household wealth dwindles. Now, I have always said, I thought it was weird that China, of course, they closed down for 3 years by their own choice. And if you're in here and if you've been following the whole CV thing, a lot of stuff didn't make sense. And if we believe the narrative, then it really doesn't make sense that they stayed on it for so long, especially given how, most people kind of after more and more came out, the less and less it was an actual threat, right? Maybe the 5 mutations down the road it might be, but it wasn't. And lots of data came out that essentially said, wow, we really overreacted. There is constant call outs in Congress saying, look at what they did. What they did hurt us more than the actual thing itself. This was horrible. Everything about it was actually done wrong. This didn't affect nearly as many people. At first, they said, oh, it's 2-3%. Then they said, oh, it's actually 0.1% or this percent. And it kept dropping. And essentially, it is now considered just like something you get every year, right? Now, of course, they're talking about Eris and all of these other things. But again, people got to the point where after about 2-3 years, they were like, this is BS. Well, China just unlocked down their country at the end of 2022. It was way after everybody was totally done with it. And it's like, why? Well, it totally screwed their economy. They purposely closed down their stuff. And you would think if it was, especially since they had great natural immunity, this and that, and we say that they created it, all this stuff, then, or if we had a part in it, whatever it is, they locked down for a very long time. Now there's all this talk in South China Morning Post. You've got the People's Daily. You got the Shenwen Daily. You have China, which normally never admits when it's wrong, never admits when it's failing. They don't put out articles on how bad the Chinese government is because they are controlled by the Chinese government. They are also approved, handpicked, and approved by the actual administration there, or some would say regime, right? Xi, there's not going to be ever, you will never see a Chinese article saying that Xi looks like Winnie the Pooh. You're never going to see one that even criticizes Xi. That doesn't happen there. But yet they are putting out all of these articles in their own papers how they're doing so horribly financially. Now, they have 1.4 billion people. That has an effect. Even saying that the economy is starting to crash, and it's all coming from them. They are the ones who are saying it in their propaganda machine. All of a sudden, now everybody is selling their property because they're freaking out. And where did they buy property? Where were they encouraged to buy property? Heck, where was the only place they could actually buy and own property? Somewhere else. The thing is if you buy something in China, it's not actually yours. It can be taken away at any point, or you end up doing a deal like a 99-year lease. You don't truly, if you're Chinese, you buy it somewhere else. You buy Australia, you buy somewhere else because you can own it forever and pass it down to your kids. But now, everybody, hundreds of middle-class families who bought investment properties before the CV in 2020 have mounted a frantic search for potential buyers following China's bumpy reopening earlier this year. Remember, they just reopened this year. It says the national government officially ended 3 years of CV. They went one day, it was like you had to have a green code just to go to the bathroom or go to the grocery store. You had to get checked, all of this just recently. And then they did the white paper thing, right? There was a couple of stories out there how thousands of protesters just had a blank white piece of paper. And remember, it was blank because they could get in trouble if they put anything on that piece of paper. But that white paper signified how angry they were and how mad they were. And then overnight, it just like went away. They said, "Oh, we're opening it up. We're going to relax it. We're going to chill on it," and switched it to open overnight. I mean, it was essentially like in less than 1 week, everything was fine. It seems strange to me. Just saying. And it says that they officially ended the 3 years of measures in January 2023, but quickly found itself in the midst of a property crisis, the effects of which have rippled across the country. The ripple has left wealthier Chinese residents unable to pay for their investments, with many having bought properties in Southeast Asia before the pandemic struck in 2020. Now, I wonder what kind of effect it would have on the U.S. and other allied countries where they're buying this property, because I doubt they're buying property in Russia or North Korea. I wonder how that would affect all of the economies of all of the allied countries, which we allow them to buy, but they don't allow us to buy. It's not like we can actually buy something in China if it's and actually own it as a non-citizen. You can't even work a regular job other than, say, janitor. Dex, go ahead.
I'm calling slight BS on this, and the BS I'm calling is this is coming from the South China Morning Post, and at least the
Right?
interview that's creating this article, okay, is coming from them, and they're talking about it as only affecting the purchases that they did in Southeast Asia and other locations. Which, yeah, I could see that possibly being happening. But what they're not calling out is the fact that it did happen in the US. And these are the same people. These are the same wealthy individuals that aren't wealthy right now and are worried about their money and going, what am I going to pay next? And they don't have the money to keep paying the bill for the property that they bought. So they're going to dump it and unload it. So this is potentially a problem here. They just don't want to talk about it, and they're not going to say it. They're saying it is a problem down there. That's my BS that I'm calling. I think that's what they're avoiding by saying that.
Oh, I know it. Like if you is there any real estate agents in the house? If you want to weigh in, if you have any any kind of useful insight into this, let us know. Put it in chat. Put it in the comments down below if you're watching the replay, especially. Let me know if you are seeing this. Obviously we're already seeing in our country. If you go to any metropolis right now, since CV destroyed a lot of things. You go downtown Seattle right now, you see store after store that's just either still boarded up from CV or it's for rent. You see huge skyscrapers that say, have thousands of square feet, blah, 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 70,000 square feet of open business rentals, right? Half of these buildings are empty in Seattle, in San Francisco, in LA, in New York, in all of the metropolis, Chicago. All of the metropolises, especially certain ones, are literally empty. And they cannot fill it. They can't rent it because it's so expensive. And they can't lower the price because most of them, the places doing it, have to pay for their spot in these buildings, right? But it's not just that. It's rent everywhere. I mean, here, for gosh sakes, you get a studio apartment, something where you stand in the middle of the room and spin in a circle. You can see your toilet, your bed, your kitchen, your closet, and your neighbor. $2,000+. It's actually up to like $2,200 for one of those. If you were in Seattle, if you go out, if you really travel far, if you work in Seattle and you want to live 2-3 hours out, you might be able to pay $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 for one, or get something really ghetto that you got to also factor in lice, delicing and things like that, and cockroach treatments and things like that. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and if this is a form of economic warfare, so to speak, keep in mind, what did all of our big money do here in the States? All of our money managers, all of our hedge funders, what did they do at the end of CV when they saw the threat of hyperinflation coming or the threat of economic doom coming? They moved their money and they went where? They went to real estate. So all of the money that all of our investors would usually invest in startup companies, usually would invest in other companies to grow them. A lot of that money pulled back, okay, and it went into housing. That's why housing prices went up. That's why rents went up big time, because it seemed like everybody became a landlord overnight. All these hedge funds, they were all pumping money. So if they crash that market, they're taking away that money. Those people, those smart investors, if you want to call them that, they knew where to put their money. They said, we see what's happening, and the safest place to put it is in the housing market. So if they put it in the housing market, what does an adversary want to do? Crash that housing market, because it'll take that money away, because there was really nowhere else to put it at the time. And that could be another sign of what they're doing here.
Somebody did a great point. It said $2,600 for a studio here. That's insane. Somebody else says Seattle. Anyways, I don't. Seattle's nearby. I had to move out of Seattle. I don't live in Seattle. I can't. I couldn't. And even if you move out, it doesn't matter. It's still expensive. Somebody said it would, Drops Family Garden, longtime Foogle fam, says it would cost you $3,000 to rent my place here. That's crazy. And as far as it's everywhere. Even some of the craziest places. Now, we were even looking into moving other places like, what was it? I just talked about the Appalachia, right? a town that been basically destroyed by the Appalachia. I think it's just called Appalachia. They even had like all of the local businesses destroyed there after the coal miners got ripped out and coal got taken out of the town. I think it was coal. After that, then they had all these mom and pop places. They had kind of a little cute downtown area. Well, then a Walmart moved in and put a lot of those mom and paws out. But the Walmart moved in, essentially put all the mom and paws out of business, and then the Walmart couldn't survive there, so the Walmart got pulled out. So you have all of these towns, and there's crazy stats on places like Appalachia, and that is a cheap place to live, but you literally have nothing around. You cannot, and I'm not trying to insult you guys. I think Appalachia is beautiful. I've said it before. Like, I want to explore Appalachia. But essentially what the stats there is that almost everybody is either extremely young and getting out or old and retired, and there's no in between. There is no in between. There's no jobs there. It's absolutely nuts. There's whole documentaries about it, but there's many places like it all around the country that are just destroyed. They ripped out manufacturing, and where did they move that manufacturing? They moved it to China. They moved it to Vietnam. They moved it to Southeast Asia. They moved it around the world, to India. Meanwhile, there are places here that are just so hard. When you see those stats about I don't want to just say just a hypothetical fake stat, but it's a really insane, scary stat when you see it about how many kids don't have a proper meal every day. Dex, if you can possibly look, like there's a really scary stat about how many kids don't eat. When you live in a metropolis or something like that, you couldn't really see it. But when you think about how many towns are like that and how many towns are in hardship right now, I could see that. And if you look all over the country and some of the places that have been hit the hardest by these things, like where they rip out the only source of money for it. I think about Westport, Washington, that used to have a booming logging and tourist business. And it's like all these different things got ripped out. Like in Westport, Washington, for instance, they had logging business that was booming. Same with Ocean Shores, all that. And they also had fishing business and a huge fishing tourism thing. Well, then laws and EPA came in and basically limited people and did these huge sweeping limitations that basically screwed all of the charters and all the businesses there. I mean, it's time and time again. There's so many of these stories around the country. Meanwhile, we're sending money somewhere else. It's absolutely insane because they're not thinking about us. They're thinking about the whole world and all of their other houses that they own, other places in beautiful areas that most of us will never ever be able to even leave because we can't save up for a vacation, let alone, save up for a house somewhere or, vacation rentals. Dex, go ahead.
I think the stat is 34 million people in America. That includes 9 million children are food insecure, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, meaning they lack consistent access to enough food for every person in their family to actually be healthy.
Why is that a thing? With how many checks they cut, you would think that every year they could cut a tiny, tiny check compared to what they're cutting for everything else. Why could they not have a permanent subsidy for at least just food for children? And I mean, not just food stamps. Like it's such a rigmarole. Like I've known so many people that have had issues and things like. There's this whole bureaucracy around all of that, where they'll make one little mistake and then their food stamps are gone. And I'm talking about a permanent thing that there is. I guarantee you, there's got to be money somewhere that's going somewhere else that would be able to pay for every American kid to have a perfectly good dinner. I just don't understand it. At the same time, all of this. So please be prepared for anything. A financial collapse would be just as bad as any asteroid hitting Earth. A complete financial collapse here, I would be worried more about people than say anything else. People would be the big thing with that. So as a prepper, if you're prepper minded, it's something that obviously you don't spend all of your time thinking, I'm scared this is going to happen. You should at least just have it in the back of your head so you're not caught by surprise. You have people like Jack Dorsey saying hyperinflation is coming ... soon, and then a couple weeks later leaves Twitter, right? I believe what he says. I don't think it was just some propaganda thing. I think that he's friends with the right people, and he's said that in a wisping tweet right before he left as CEO, and I think that they know this is coming. That's what I think. That's just my personal opinion. I think that he is right, and I really wish it wasn't the case. But if you look at all of the things that are going on, you cannot switch. The whole world is run on petrodollars. You cannot switch to being an all-electric society without then destroying the currency that the whole world uses that is literally tied to petrol. It's tied to gas. And all of a sudden, the last couple of admins are saying, yeah, we're completely going to X out gas. No more gas. There is no switching over that's going to be an awesome situation for civilians, for regular people. There isn't. There can't be. If you're going to build up, you have to tear down. And that's what's happening right now. That's why people like myself and all of our peers, that's why we're getting ready for it. You can adapt to it. You can survive. That's the thing. It's not an end of the world thing. It's the start of a new one. And you've got to be ready to adapt. Commander of Putin's Black Sea Fleet killed in missile strike along with 33 leaders in biggest scalp of the whole conflict. Dex, this could be a huge escalation.
Most certainly. So this is, I guess, we reported on Friday that they had struck that location in Crimea, a significant building. I believe it was like the headquarters for the Black Sea Fleet or whatever. So now what's coming out is not only was it hit, but like what was the outcome of that? Now that one was confirmed when we talked about it from Russia's side, but what we're hearing now, this is only coming, at least at this point, from what I'm reading here in this article, is it's coming from UKR claims. So, but if it's true, that's pretty significant. The number of officers, as well as taking out the leadership, that's pretty significant, and probably why we saw so much back and forth between Russia and UKR as we've seen over the last few days.
When you see if everything is even somewhat true, this is something where you have a lot of powerful people essentially getting taken out all at once. This is where this is where countries like Russia could respond with, way bigger responses. And of course, way bigger responses means that, say, if they respond to UKR, they take out huge swaths of Ukraine, then that's American NATO gear that's getting destroyed. That's the troops that won't be replaceable. That's not a good thing. All right, and then before we move on, I just want to remind you guys, if you do want to protect yourself against one of the most probable events out of all of the crazy things that could happen, EMP and CME are literally up at the very top. CME, the reason why it is at the top is because a CME from the sun, or a solar event that could hit us, is a guaranteed. It is a when, not if. It is if we get a Carrington level event that hits Earth and we are not up for it, if the countries of the world do not get their stuff upgraded to handle it, then it could literally knock down all of our grids. If our grids go down, they say that 90% of us could perish in the first year, and that would be due to a lack of water and infrastructure. Once we lose water, everything falls apart. So again, if you want to protect yourself, and the more people that do protect themselves, the better off everybody will be. You can actually protect not only your cars, your vehicles, your ATVs, your boats, your RVs, all of your campers, your house, your generators, even your ham radio. Then you can just put an EMP shield on it, and it will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your device, your home, your car, your generator. They also make one specifically for the Flex 1500 solar generator. So if you already have one of those, highly recommend protecting it because it is already an investment to get any kind of generator as part of your arsenal. then you definitely want it to keep running when you actually need it. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. You'll get $50 off per device, and you'll be helping our independent channel. Essentially, again, there is no treated equal when you're covering something that they don't want you covering. So I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you. Let's see here. And then before we move on, I did want to do a quick call out, and you probably know my email address by now, but adam@marfooglenews.com. I have kind of a personal request. The sheer numbers that are in here, I bet that I will get a pretty good response. And I actually need some help right now. If any of you out there are familiar with epilepsy and have epilepsy in your family, it would be extremely helpful. We are just I'm just now starting to deal with it. I can't really go into the details, but I would love to have some resources on this. And if you have an epileptic in your family, it would be very much appreciated if you could put epilepsy in the title of your email at adam@marfooglenews.com and point me to some resources that I could use, that I could learn how to help someone with epilepsy. If you guys, if you are somebody who has had somebody in the family with that for a very long time, then please let me know, where to start, other than just Googling, different things, side effects of medications and stuff like that. If there's something like that out there, I would love for you guys to point me away. A Facebook group where I can talk to other people, that would be a blessing and a half. I'd really appreciate that. And email me and then put the subject as epilepsy at adam@marfooglenews.com. I would greatly appreciate it. And I know since there's a lot of people here, the odds are there's going to be really great people in the Foogle fam that can point me in the right direction, or to a really good group somewhere where I can just pop in and ask questions and, not be looked at crazy. All right. And then Russian officers who hadn't been paid by Moscow sold key intel on the Black Sea fleet to Ukrainian resistance fighters. Then the headquarters blew up. Dex, do you want to cover this one?
Certainly. After missing their anticipated salary payments, Russian officers decided to leak sensitive information about Moscow's Black Sea fleet to a Ukrainian partisan movement. The intelligence later paved the way for the devastating missile strike on the fleet's headquarters in the occupied Crimean Peninsula. So, as this is telling us, at least coming from UKR media, is reporting it. So again, grain of salt, but they're saying the reason they got the information to hit that target is coming from people that basically turn sides. In this case, they were disgruntled, an officer being disgruntled for not getting paid. So, they're getting a twofer out of this story. They're saying we got somebody to flip, but we also can show that Russia's not paying their officers on time or making the payments to their military as they're supposed to. Now, again, we have to take it with a grain of salt. I don't know what other proof there is other than what's being said here in the article coming out of, again, UKR's media.
Yeah, and we have to take everything with a grain of salt, but we, of course, will update it if anything changes, because usually you wait a week and either changes or gets verified. And then Putin orders Russian defense minister to halt UKR counteroffensive before early October. So they are actually pulling back. And it says that Russian President Vladimir Putin has given his defense minister Sergei Shoigu until October to stop the UKR counteroffensive, the Institute of Study of War reports, citing an insider source. It says, quote, a Kremlin insider source claimed that Putin reportedly gave Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu a deadline of 1 month until early October 2023 to improve the situation on the front lines, stop Ukrainian counteroffensives, and have Russian forces again regain initiative. Now, from back when we saw that huge attack, right? And I don't know if the timing of this was after or before, but over the last week, there's been some pretty big things like the submarine getting taken out, the boat, the ship getting taken out, huge hits on an area they say that was somewhat of a headquarters. All of this happened, now he's saying, in 1 month. Like we said earlier, if they have some huge stuff go down in Russia and it's from UKR/NATO gear, NATO infrastructure, then they're going to start escalating. And if they start escalating, if now he's giving a month deadline, are they about to get serious? Like this almost looks like, that's what may actually happen. If they end up kicking it up a notch, and a lot of folks think that this is like full on, that, Russia's fighting for its life. I don't think Russia's using all of its gear. I mean, heck, for the first almost year of this conflict, they weren't even taking jets over the border. They were strictly using their artillery and using their space stations to hit whatever came close. Not to mention they had some, at very first, they actually took people off of the street. They did a draft, grabbed unexperienced people from whatever age. I mean, they were grabbing like 55-year-olds and sending them in with essentially whatever garbage weapons they had. I mean, they were sending them in with 1910 weapons and old tanks from World War II, and seeing what kind of damage they could do to the front lines of UKR with whatever they had laying in their closets. Now they finally started using the Terminator tanks, like 4 or 5 months ago or 6 months ago, way into the conflict. So this isn't a good thing to see. But again, by the time October rolls around, that's when the weather is going to start getting bad. So maybe it's just because they don't want to go it longer. I mean, what's going to happen to Shogu if this doesn't work out, right? Are we going to see Shogu mysteriously fell off of a 50-story porch? Who knows? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Dex, do you think that the deadline is going to mean anything?
Well, it's coming from an anonymous source, and it's coming from the Institute of Study of War. So we kind of have to, question if it's even true. But if it is true, it means that if it's true and what is being said is true, then it means that they're acknowledging that the counteroffensive is actually making some headway, enough that it would be a big deal. And if that's the case, then the only solution to that is to escalate, to stop it. And what would the escalation be? Is it just going to be continuation of what they've been doing, or are we going to see something new? And we've heard from generals and others on Russia's side, all pointing to, hey, you should be dropping tacticals and put this escalation to bed overnight. That would be the scary part.
Yes, it would. And sorry about that, Dex. You probably heard the...
No worries.
And then Wings and Wags Patriot. Why? Because taxes ought not pay for bags of fudge rounds. Oliver Anthony. Wings and Wags Patriot, thank you for the support. Again, thank you. And then William Shelbrick says, as a combat veteran, and I believe I missed this last time, as a combat veteran, I'm very concerned with what's going on lately. William Shelbrick. I think a lot of folks are in the same boat. And then Dystopia. Dystopia is here. Jared West, thank you. SFDT. Mimi Carstel, thank you for earlier this week. My Dog Eats Jeans, 72. CMAC, Shiny Future. Chanel Beveliqua, thank you so much again for this week's support. Trinity, Red or Blue Pill, Hi Ho, Kermit the Frog. Thank you for modding. Thank you for being awesome and making a bunch more shows now. Thank you. And then Richard Browder, Trusted Source, Carol, and Gaining Value and Spiritual Sniper. Not to forget Julie Pilkerton and Bible Talk 777. And a hair-raising moment, that Ukrainian kamikaze drone flies into Russian forest hideout and explodes. So this is, we'll talk about the Belarus part. Yeah. So after this, we'll talk about kind of the response to a lot of these drones. So let me pull this up real quick. This is over on my Twitter. You guys can go over and see it. So let's see here. Sure, I've got the fair use over here. I won't. We put music over it because it was not a. All right, so this is a Ukrainian drone supposedly going into a forest, and the quality it's not your screen, it's the quality of the video because it is it's some sort of FPS drone or a commercial or a regular, consumer drone that's now flying through the forest. I believe it's even a smaller FPV drone, and supposedly it has explosives on it. It's now hunting a bunker, and you'll see here in a second, and it is really that bad quality, and I believe that's what the pilot would see too. So probably I don't know how far out of range. If this was consumer, though, I don't think they could be that far. Maybe they could have some sort of booster. But you see it kind of weaving and wagging through trees, and then you see it find this bunker. And here's the bunker. It's got a tent over it, and it's basically a trench / bunker type thing. And then it flies right in. Where are all the soldiers, though? And then it goes here. There's a blanket, and then it explodes. Now it shows the top-down view of this thing on fire. Now, since there is absolutely, and so there's not a single troop that, not a single soldier that is up above. That's the only thing I thought about this. Either way, if it's real, it would explain a couple things. But if this could, technically, some people said, this could have been staged and they could have just built a bunker and then did this video to get like a quick, oh, look at how good we're doing. This is what the money is going towards. A bunch of these drones are kicking butt. But we see this. I mean, this could have been a controlled burn or something from the sky, or it could have been this bunker thing. These little consumer drones can do this, which is kind of crazy. And from this, the timing of it, Belarus bans storage and use of drones. So Dex, they are actually banning these completely, and it's most likely because of things like this, right?
Yeah, and this isn't just, this is one instance where allegedly they're telling us that this video was released by the UKR military. So it's an official video that they put out. Of course, by the time it came out, it had like a Guns N' Roses song on it. And so we had to edit it down so we could play it back here. But anyway, I don't know that it's just that, but because we've seen with the airfield strikes, with the boomers that were taken out, one that was hit on the top, those were all done with these same types of drones. In other words, somebody was local, somebody was nearby, and they were flying quadcopters in that are much harder to detect because they're very small and apparently can still pack a decent punch because they don't have to carry that much weight. So
I think it's FPV.
I guess. Yeah. And if it's got the capabilities of doing FPV, I think even DJIs can do FPV. They're just, it depends on which models. I think they always talk about DJIs, which is kind of ironic that China builds them, but UKR is using them against Russia. But anyway, I digress. But that is what we're hearing now from Belarus is, hey, we're going to say that nobody's allowed to have these. You can't own one. You can't sell one unless you're a professional business and have professional activities, which sounds like they're going to do some form of licensing so that they can know who's got them and they can control them, because this is now a threat to Belarus. Yeah, and
this is the DJI brand, right? This is the actual FPV version they have. For the regular drones, I don't think this would be like a regular DJI. It would have to be either an off-brand or this one. This is the only FPV they make. But I highly doubt it's DJI. They're probably made. It would be way cheaper. And I don't think that would be crazy if they were using DJI, since our military is trying to stop using DJI. But again, who knows? DJI
Maybe
sales.
We sent all of ours over to them to get rid of them.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Because at one point, we were buying a ton of DJI drones. Our military was using it, and it was so stupid. All DJI, it doesn't matter if it's for the military, for consumer, it has proprietary software. I actually just recently had a thing. I have now it's considered outdated and old. I have a DJI Mavic Pro, no, Pro 2. And that's outdated. They don't even, you can't even get the software for it. It turned into a brick. I talked about this like about a month ago, but I hadn't flown my drone in about a year. And all of a sudden, basically, they banned the app. They banned all the stuff. You couldn't get it anywhere. You couldn't get it on the Play Store. And it turned into, what was originally $2,000 into a $2,000 brick. But I did eventually get the solution, but the solution was to basically download it straight from China. Now, again, the DJI, the proprietary thing that these use, it requires your phone or whatever is running this to then send a signal back to the device, which that could, and even the newer ones, it automatically records it. Even if you don't have it on an SD cards, it's saving it on your phone. That same footage could then be sent to the company that owns it. It could be sent to DJI, which DJI is in part connected to the CCP. At least they have enough ties where they were worried about it, right? Well, that proprietary software, that is a backdoor. That means that they could go in and say if some regular... This was crazy genius if they were doing this on their part, because millions of people were flying these all around the country. And if they did have access to all of this, they could have had AI essentially mapping our entire country, because there's idiots that would have flown it up, above bases and things like that, and they could have taken that footage and then mapped the whole place for it. So, Dex, go ahead.
I think it was John Cabot who said that the video appears to be analog, and DJI is digital. But the other thing is a lot of the FPVers use analog because you get a further distance. I just looked it up, and a lot of the FPVers say they can go up to 24 miles. So back to the point you were making earlier, how close do they have to be? They were saying they can get 20 to 24 miles on the analog signal, not digital. Digital's a lot shorter, but the old-fashioned analog signals. So.
Oh, you mean like, yeah, like what, 2.4 and 2.4 gigahertz and 5.8 gigahertz? Would that be considered analog?
I don't know if it's the frequency. Well, the frequency would matter, but the analog version of it as opposed to the digital version, where DJI is digital, so you're only going to get a few miles out of it, tops, or a mile or two, depending on terrain, as far as distance goes. But a lot of the FPVers will use analog systems, which will use an analog radio. I don't know what range that radio is in, but they're getting 20 miles distance. Some are getting more than that.
Well, then that would make sense. And when it goes farther out. But I've seen those same kind of videos. That grain is when FPV drone is way out of range. Or if it goes on the other side of a concrete wall or something. It's crazy what they can do with those FPV drones now. They fly completely differently than regular drones. Regular drones anybody could do. It's like learning how to drive an automatic. All right. And all right, before we move on, if you don't have a backup generator, if you don't have anything, if your power goes out and if you have no way to restore that, then again, you're probably in the market for one of these. It's just about kind of which one or what kind, right? Gas power generator, solar generator, and if you can save up for it or you can afford it. Well, if you are going to save up for one, especially if you are going to set a goal and get one, I'd highly recommend getting the Energy Flex 1500. The reason why is because this is basically any system you want it to be. It's expandable up to 96 batteries, so you can, again, buy the base unit and then keep expanding it over the years. And over the years, if they come out with new technology, they come out with new mods for it, you can just buy the brick and then slip it in. It's like Lego. In fact, all of the mods actually go in like a brick in between. I used mine yesterday, but this is the one I'm not using. This is one that triples the amount of solar panels you can put in it. This goes in between. Right now, the rapid charger is actually charging it, but the rapid charger, it not only doubles as a UPS, but it also turns it into a rapid charger of 1,200 watts per hour. So you can charge a whole 1,000 watt hour brick in about 40 minutes. It might even be less now. It's so insanely fast. So this system is really, really cool because you can do pretty much anything and everything with it. It's portable, or you can have it set up to be, to have power for days. 96 batteries. I have no idea how long that would last, but again, it would be a long, long time. But you don't need that because you constantly have new power coming in from the sun. You get yourself some foldable panels. You have a system that can completely go off grid. Not only that, it is one of the only solar generators you can get a EMP shield for. So this can be completely protected by EMP shield. So it is a very, very cool system. Go to marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY. And not only will you get an awesome discount, but that is also going to help our channel at the same time. If you really want a badass one, definitely check out the Flex Tactical. This is their newest. There is a wait for both of these, I believe, because the lithium that is inside these is, again, extremely fought over right now. This generator is sought after because this is the new one that they actually designed with the Air Force Research Laboratory. This one is actually going to be going out to the Army under the SBIR Phase 2 contract. So they are now officially supplying these for the Army. So these are really, really cool. These have built-in heaters in each battery. They have a reinforced steel frame, and they have 1,500-pound latches. So there's lots of more. They even have ground on this side. These things are really, really made like trucks. And you could literally drop one off of one, and these things would probably be okay. So again, if you want the toughest of tough, I don't think 99% of people need this. But if you do live in somewhere with extreme colds or something like that, then I'd highly recommend this. Either way, if you want the best of the best, you would definitely go for this one. That's the Flex Tactical. It's also expandable. It's also, I believe, is going to be modded, modular. So it's all the same stuff, only tougher. All right. Again, marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY. All right. And then, Dex, do you want to go over a Kremlin critic was transferred to a Siberian prison and placed in a punishment cell, lawyer says?
Well, don't be outspoken in that country. I believe the crime here was that he literally spoke out and said he was not in favor. He was obviously a critic. I'm sure he probably just wasn't a random stranger, but had opposition views and probably published them, made them well known, and got thrown in prison 25 years. And now, to make matters worse, he's being thrown in some of the most maximum security in a Siberian city of Omsk, as his lawyer is stating on Facebook. So just an interesting point of view about what can happen on that side. Now, this is just the story that's coming out to us. We don't know the full picture, but at the same time, it does seem a little difficult to think about that if you have an opposing opinion and that your punishment is to shut you up and throw you away. But don't kid yourself. It's not like we haven't seen stuff like that happen even in our own country here.
Cypher9 says Russian prisons are a living hell. I mean, it is. I mean, they're infamous, especially Siberia. I think it's been in so many of the fictional action movies that I've seen. Is like you get sent to a prison in Siberia. Like it's savage. The prisons that are there, Siberia, of course, can get. Isn't Siberia the place that gets negative temperatures and absolutely nuts? Like, the weather there is like,
yes.
Yeah. So imagine not only being, in a freezing temperatures kind of climate like that, but also being in one of the toughest prisons in the world. So yeah. Here they at least they're not that bad, but they will completely demonetize you though. So they can, if you criticize the politicians here, it's a much lighter sentence. And then
and they sometimes lock you up and take their time getting around to processing you. I've seen that happen
Well,
too.
technically, the U.S. with after 2001, I mean, they literally made it. So if that's the scariest part, is every government has done things like where they actually put people in jail with no explanation, and now they can. Under whatever the Patriot Act or whatever, they could literally arrest you for months and put you in Guantanamo Bay without a trial. No lawyers call, no nothing. That's insane to me, like that they could just do that. Dex, I have something to say about the aliens, but I got to change a battery real quick. So if you want to talk about the preparing to announce aliens, this is the Senate's proposed UFO controlled disclosure plan and how it would work. I told you.
So,
by the way, I called that there was going to be incoming distraction. The 10 videos earlier, I said later this week, they're going to distract us from something, and they're going to come out and they're probably going to, quote all of these 10 videos they put out. Anyways, go ahead.
So apparently the Senate passed an amendment in July, and it will be part of the National Defense Authorization for 2024. And according to this, if the government will be forced to disclose if aliens have visited Earth within 300 days under that new legislation. So this could be, I guess, the legal precedence to start disclosure, as some have said. I question if it's real. I question if it's a big distraction. We do have a big event coming up next year, so maybe this will be the distraction or the excuse or what they roll out to play with that event, so to speak. And you guys know what that event is because we had one 4 years ago in 2020, and we had something that caused us to have another issue that was going on TV. That tended to change the way that event went down. So who knows? Maybe this is what 2024's got in store. If it's not that, it might be major conflict or maybe another version of CV. But here we go. They're proclaiming that we may have a actual disclosure event in about 300 days.
And just like every other time where they said, "Hey, we're going to release this information," and then it's like a huge redacted list of maybes. It's kind of like when they did this thing the same day as Hunter's trial, same day as his like arraignment. They have that guy that basically said the exact same thing on a news interview. It was like almost exactly what he said in the news interview. They were like, "Hey, this whistleblower, let's put him on Congress that same exact day." So the only difference is that he was talking to Congress, and congressmen were all there like, "Oh yeah, so you're really saying that aliens are real? Like, wait, you're saying we have an alien in custody?" Like, it just seemed to me like this is so fake. That was my personal opinion. What did you guys think of that? I'm not saying about what the guy's saying. Maybe the guy's, telling the truth. But the fact that they put it there on that day, that's not a coincidence. It wasn't at all. And I believe the same day T-Man was doing something big. But it's like, what did people talk about at the water coolers? They're not allowed to talk at work about T-Man. They're not allowed to talk about work about the president's son. They're allowed to talk about the UFOs. And that's what gets coverage. That's what everybody did their TikTok videos about. That's what everybody was chatting about. And they would clip that 1,000,000 times. And they know that people are going to clip that. People know that they're, even in that setting, they know that people clip that 10,000 times over in different ways and frame it. I mean, how many content creators made shorts and videos and TikToks clipping that guy saying, like, "Yeah, we have, an alien in custody since a long time ago, and we've recovered off-world stuff," and showing it in the context of being in like a congressional hearing. That immediately gives it this credibility, right? We've all seen like the Paul Hellyer videos from years and years ago. Paul Hellyer was the former Canadian defense minister. He was in charge a good part of like, if the military was going to respond to something in Canada, which is Canada's a big country. He was a very important person in Canada. He was partly in charge of the military there. I mean, I don't want to say he was completely in charge, but he was the defense minister. And he says, the aliens are as real as the planes above us, right? And the reason why that hit really so hard, and for me personally, like when I first saw that, I was like, whoa, he's like in a courtroom setting or a congressional setting type thing. And that instantly gives everybody this kind of credibility. So it's just funny that, like, they know that, though. That's why you have to question everything. It's like they know that if it's set in a congressional thing like this, and they could set up something like that in the future that's something completely wacky. They could say they've found a creature that they believe is Bigfoot, and they could set a congressional hearing about it because there are some serious, well, it could actually be China. It could be a new, made in a lab type thing. And people would go, oh, man, this is crazy. You see this video? Dex, go ahead.
Well, let's not forget the the hearing in Mexico, right? I kind of chuckle because a lot of people thought that was crazy. But there were doctors there that said, hey, we did DNA on this stuff, and we compared it to 1 million other versions of DNA, and it's not of human origin. And then Peru is now going after them, saying they were unauthorized to remove them from their country, and they called them the quote unquote alien bodies. And now someone else is demanding that they do another DNA research on it through those DNA companies. I don't want to name the company, but you guys know which one it is. So yeah, that's
what, 23andMe?
Yeah, they're saying they want to give the analysis to them to verify that it is not human.
They find out they're like, the alien's related to Prince and Robin Williams. Oh my God, 3 generations back. You got Charlie Chaplin there. Whoa. It's like, how would that help? I don't know. I guess they know how to read DNA, though. Hollywood's writer's strike is on the verge of ending. What happens next? One thing is, have you guys noticed, and this is also part of this whole system of like having, nobody can write anything. Comedians can't tell jokes without fear of being canceled. Writers can't write good movies anymore. There are no good shows. I mean, there's a couple, but I mean, yeah, like there's the Yellowstones and stuff like that. But even Yellowstone got ruined at the very end. They started talking about like issues and this and that. And it's like, can't we just have shows that don't have political issues interjected in them? Can we just go back to like no religions and politics in entertainment? Like, it's just insane. As far as like the writer strike, if you look, every facet of all of my favorite things have all had some sort of thing where they are trying so hard to make it so diverse and this and that they've ruined the actual premise or the source material. I mean, there's been so many great channel. What is it called? It's a relatively new channel, but he's on his way to 1 million. Dex, do you remember that channel's name I sent you? It was the movie critic. He talks all about it though. He talks about just how everything has been ruined. Disney movies have been ruined. Star Wars have been ruined. The Witcher franchise. You've got Marvel. Marvel has just gone down the crapper. All of these franchises have put out these huge lost movies. And it's like people can't write anymore. And meanwhile, they are now bringing in this whole thing of AI. And part of this writer's strike is they're trying to get like agreements that they won't write with AI, and that these companies won't just have AI do the scripts instead of people, which I still don't understand. Even if AI is capable of making something that's entertaining to humans, which you would think, even if it was, it wouldn't be the same. Like a human brain with imagination. One thing I don't see AI having is an imagination of being able to think of things that aren't just set in stone. But either way, you go to and Netflix and other places like this, they've been destroyed for a long time. I mean, it's crazy that Netflix now, you go to Netflix now, you see that there's like 50 Bollywood movies in the top 50 movies because they don't have any contracts anymore. All of these companies, they all said, oh, Netflix, they've got a service with all this. Well, we own those movies. Why don't we make our own service? So now you've got Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, A&E Plus, Discovery Plus, blah, blah, blah Plus, everything Plus. Only it's negative $100 out of your pocket if you get any of the pluses. So it's a real negative in my book. But all of these have separated all of their movies under their own thing, and you got to pay $6, $7 here, and $10 here, $10 here. It's getting absolutely insane. Well, now those are even failing because now the economy's failing and people don't have $8 per thing to get. So now people, again, are just giving up on Hollywood. But you could see that Hollywood is giving up. Like, there's no good content anymore. There's no good movies. There's no anything. I mean, shit, they've probably put out 10. I actually like the actor, the same one from Schindler's List. Gosh, what's his name? What's the main guy in Schindler's List? The guy from Taken. They've made like 50.
Morgan Freeman?
No.
Oh,
From
no.
Schindler's List?
No, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the other movie. The other person. I was thinking of a
Guest
prison movie you were
star?
saying. No, sorry. No, I know what you're talking about. Schindler's List. Yeah. Liam Neeson.
I don't think he would be in it for long. But Liam Neeson, they've made like 10 of these movies of like they made like 10 movies of Liam Neeson, like, oh, now he's in a car, now he's a sniper, now he's a CIA, now he's a CIA with 3 kids, now he's a CIA agent with 4 kids, and they're all kidnapped. It's just like they and then the worst part is they're not coming up with anything new. When they do come up with something new, it's got to abide by these rules. And when it's not something new, they're taking old IP and ruining it. Indiana Jones was a complete flop. What's his face? This guy calls it a Indiana Jones and the Dial of Dysentery. I love this guy. I gotta share it. I shared his channel on Twitter. You guys got to go check him out. But it's like now the strike is going to end. I don't think it's going to get any better. I really don't. What'd be awesome is if our culture took a U-turn and stopped all of this super sensitive, this hurts my feelings crap, and go back to being human. Like, it's not human, and they're changing history. They're trying to make eras, like they're literally trying to change. They're changing history. They're showing like they're showing things that didn't exist, just to push that. They're a perfect example of this, and I believe it's being canceled. Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. There have been 2 different arguments. I think the guy from Game of Thrones is the one who said, oh, no, this is wrong, shouldn't do this, whatever. Meanwhile, other dwarves in the industry have said Seven White and the Seven Dwarves being made into a live-action film, this gives 7 actual dwarves the dream job of a lifetime. And guess what they cast the 7 dwarves as? The 7 dwarves, it was going to be Snow White and the 7 dwarves, and it was going to be a white, a Chinese person, an African person, a Hispanic person, a woman, a male, dark skin, light skin, every skin. And they weren't going to be dwarves. I believe there was going to be 1 actual dwarf and then 6 regular sized people. And what they said is like, this is going to take away from actual dwarves who literally have been acting their whole lives, who have been looking for this kind of dream job, like a Disney movie, Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. That would launch any of their careers. Like kind of like Game of Thrones for what's-his-face did. But again, they also turned it into where it wasn't even going to be the original Snow White story. They say the girl went on a tour of just talking trash about the original movie, which meaned a ton to all of us. Like, if you grew up with Disney movies, the original old school Disney movies with like morals and values and weird things in the background, then you know. But they trashed it saying, oh, it's outdated and it's old. And we're going to make this one not about a prince coming to save her, about a woman who comes to power and all of that. It's like, when are people going to understand? Like, you can't push, when you try to push it so hard where it's not, The thing is, they used to say, "Oh, it's not realistic. You have a movie where there's no people of this kind in it, then that's not realistic." No, you're right. Yeah, in real life, there's people of all colors. There's people of this, but when you force it and make sure that there is literally none of this person, and there's 7 of these people, it doesn't make sense either. It doesn't make sense to absolutely in every scenario put a certain kind of couple in. It doesn't make sense to turn it into something it's not. In real life, it's not like that. It doesn't make sense to change history just to appease culture. Like I'm completely flabbergasted by where Hollywood has gone, where culture has gone. And Hollywood, this is important because it's shaping our youth. It's shaping how they think. This is mocking and Bird 100%. Like, this is all this stuff. And they're taking a hit for it. So you wonder, who is paying the rest? Like, these companies just don't lose money for no reason. I'm sure later down the road, we're going to find out there's been billions of dollars paid in every asset of every piece of media to social medias, all sorts of things, because they are taking hits. They're losing money. These movies are not doing well. Nothing is doing well in this. It's insane to me. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. All right, and then the boys 9336. What's going on, Scooby Doo Right? T Kochi, thank you so much for supporting over on D Live. Thank you guys, appreciate that. All right, and then let's see here. Stephanie Cook, thank you so much for the support. Appreciate that. Made brother seizure after 50 years of regular epileptic seizure. So glad he's seizure free 7 years. Stephanie Cook, you don't have to do it. Can you email me? But also, I wonder, you're saying that the medication made them seizure free for 7 years. What were the side effects of the medication? Is my question. And then Dex, if you want to talk about the Senate confirms chairman of Joint Chiefs as GOP senator still blocking hundreds of military nominees.
Well, we'll set aside the political part of this, which is what they're blocking and why they're blocking. Let's set that aside. This is just a good reminder that, by the way, General Mark Milley is at the end of his term. He's literally leaving at the end of the month. So, for as much as we cover him, we've talked about him, we've ranted about him doing interesting things. Some might say extreme things that you wouldn't normally see from what should be an apolitical position, but he's gone. So then there's a new person coming in, and so that's what I guess is the main story to me, is that goodbye, Mark Milley.
Remember, what was that, Dex, that we covered, that they actually said it was against the law to something on social media that was like, you couldn't talk trash about military positions like his. Said he would warn. This is nuts. And what we were talking about, Milley secretly promised China. This is when T-Man was president, and people cheered him on for this. Secretly promised China that he would warn them if T-Man was to do a surprise attack. Like, if he was going to hit the nuke button, Milley was going to give a cell phone call to Xi. Yet we don't have any connections now. That it seems strange to me that under the last president, they were really tight. They were talking. There were 2 calls, one before that crazy event and one call after that, a couple days later on the 8th. But yeah, now we're not connected. Now there's no military talking, right? Yet the same guy in charge was the same guy that says, "Hey, don't worry, bro. I got you. I'll tell you. If he launches nukes, you guys will have plenty of warning. You'll be able to obliterate us before we get it off the ground." Again, the guy who's in charge of the military. Absolutely insane. There's another word for what he did in a lot of people's minds, but a lot of folks called him a hero because he was stopping the bad man from starting WW3, which has now started and we're in the middle of, and people don't realize it yet. under the next person, which was predicted and talked about for years. Go ahead, Dex.
And just real quick, the new the replacement who was nominated by our current president and then confirmed is Charles Quinton Brown Jr., who's a United States Air Force general, served as the 22nd Chief of Staff of the Air Force. So an Air Force person is going into that position.
CQ Brown. So we'll see. I wonder what if anything is going to change. What is his background? Is that going to push decisions into a more traditional route? Are some things going to be undone? Or are things going to go a little bit even crazier? Yeah. So let us know in the comments down below what you think. And again, thank you, chat. Lots of great OG Foogle fam. Hey, we got Louis Tramposh here. Heavy Ordnance is here. Taryn, See Hard Think, Brandon Willie, Billy the Kid Norwood, Joe that you know, Aberration is here. We've got Deplorable B Block. We've got Marvin, Breath, Billy. What's going on? Billy the Kid, Island by the Sea, Stephen McMahon, longtime Foogle. KT Cleans a lot. Thank you for being here. Florida Granny. There are no more Patriots in the DC. I'm sure there are, but they probably don't get to the top level. That's for sure. Let's see here. Me Man, what is happening? Mad Owl. Sean James, thank you. Bobby Sue. Too much information. Richie's Restorations. Sure they're going to put up a guy there to replace Millie that's going to buck the system. No. Yeah, exactly. It's true. And then Mystery School, much love, Foogle fam. Sparky's Run, Peter Turncoat Millie, yeah, WIS Jen, Malachi Martin, WIS, thank you for being here. Tall Corn Survival, and Lord Andrew, Dystopian Visions, and everybody else. Thank you guys for being here. In DeBow, thank you for making it. All right, and then we've got some other things to go over, but real quick, I do want to remind you, if you haven't already, we are now with Nutrient Survival. Again, this is extremely high quality freeze-dried foods. They actually make it in the process they make it. It keeps a whole lot more of the nutrition in it. They focus on actually making it healthy. And as far as the food, it's delicious. It's packaged awesome. And again, it is definitely a super, super high quality freeze-dried food. Every freeze-dried food is going to be exactly what they put in it. What you put in it is what you get out of it. They actually have a focus in making you healthy and not only to survive, but to thrive. So if you haven't seen these, again, this is actually what I've talked about before. It is a bit more expensive than some of the others. And again, we are going to make sure that we recommend kind of our different recommendations for most affordable bulk buy for your money / highest quality versus quantity. This is really, really good food. And as I've said, Alaska Prepper sold me on this when he actually had them send me it. I tried it. It was really, really delicious. So there's all sorts of great meals. Again, marfugglenews.com/NS. Very easy, marfugglenews.com, and then just do a /NS. You'll save 15% off with that code, which is a very, very big chunk on that. So thank you again for going there, marfugglenews.com/NS, and make sure to use the code MARF. It's a special ops grade survival food. 6 times more nutrients than other survival food. So that's, again, something that they focus on. And it's handcrafted in small batches in Reno, Tahoe, USA. All right, Dex, let's go over the web only. We got a lot of crazy stuff here.
Absolutely. Head over to marfugglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up that show notes link that's down below in the description. Reminder, if you're ever looking for any link that we're talking about, you can always start with the description. It'll get you there to our website, to any of our affiliates. They're all right there if you're looking for them. Lots happening in the news. So if you get to this page, you can find that video if you want to see the quadcopter that we showed earlier, that tweet is here. That's on the page. That's where all of the sources are. You'll get to this orange bar, scroll down, and it'll say overflow. That's the rest of the story. So we do have a lot of other updates going on here. One interesting story on EMPs. Somebody put together, they were talking to the author that recently wrote a book. He's been around the block a few times with these. So it's kind of the same thing we've covered before. But he's talking about how Putin's advanced EMPs could, take out the collapse of society. It's nothing that we haven't talked about a million times here. So I wanted to preface that, but at the same time, it's a good article if you want to share it with somebody, friends or family, that needs a little reminder and understanding of what may be coming. So take a look at that one. We definitely have the rhetoric that's being thrown around in the political side, especially with T-Man, and even going so far as to put out some of his comments about Millie and others. So all of that's there if you're looking for it. I think he was even there's some stuff coming out with his meeting with him and Peter Thiel, and how that went down. So all of that's there. We do have some updates around what's going on in UKR, what with Zelensky's meetings here, with what Putin was saying to his own country about Zelensky and what kind of things were causing from that. Of course, some of the other stuff that's going around the globe, like NK and SK, and what's going on, a little bit of trash talking, if you want to say that, going back and forth there, which is typical, but it's there if you want to see that. The brand, the Russell stuff, it's being covered as well. The British government accused of potentially muzzling that story, which is very interesting. And then, of course, a lot of other allegations are coming out. This thing is snowballing big time. So if you want to know those stories, they're all there on the website. You can go look at it. You can click through and read the articles if you're interested. That and so much more, including the stuff going on with the House. I think there was the corruption stuff with the senator and Egypt, as well as some other things going on with UKR and House Speaker and more. So all of that, gosh, we got a lot. It's just so much to cover there. So go take a look. It is on marfooglenews.com, and you can click on the thumbnail for the show, or you can open up that show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you right here.
And by the way, so the British government and stuff like that, it's funny that MSN and our mainstream media is totally okay with covering that, Britain's so bad. They're muzzling the coverage of the censoring of this guy, but yet they're doing it. And on somebody else it happens here, they're doing the same thing. They're writing they're getting letters and doing it, right? It's happened numerous times over the last 4 years. It's insane how many people are secretly, we never see those letters though. With Mr. Russell though, that letter from the UK government, which this is the problem. They can say, oh, it's a private company. If they don't want to have them on, yeah, they can. But when it's being asked by a government, that's where it becomes wrong. They're literally saying like, hey, don't pay this dude. It wasn't the company, didn't do anything wrong to that company. It was something outside of that. So then they're writing a letter saying, oh, we just want to make sure you're doing this. Wink, wink. Like, hey, we just want to make sure. Is he still getting anything? Just making sure. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge. Get our meaning here. I mean, like that's where I think people they need to start, and that should be illegal. It should be illegal for that to happen, especially without a trial, without anything. Make sure to go check out marfooglenews.com/friends. And thank you guys. Thank you, Dex. Thank you for your service tonight.
Absolutely. Much love, brother. Great job.
Thank you, Jammer. Again, thank you for even giving a badge to Tommy, or Tommy RTR7. Thank you. And then thank you, Meme Man 1984. Appreciate you stopping by, and thank you. And thank you, Stephanie. If you can, adam@marfooglenews.com. If you can email me about your brother, I would love to hear it. Otherwise, anybody else, if you want to email me, that would be great. adam@marfooglenews.com. And make sure to tag that subject line. And then Thank you to the wonderful mods. Make sure to go over and check all of them out. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, you guys have a great night. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.
Wake up and learn, wake up and learn. Over and over, we gotta crash and burn just so a couple of us can wake up and learn. Over and over, we gotta crash and burn so a couple of us can wake up and learn.
All right, let's do a fresh one. And tonight, I believe, let's see here. I believe it will be for Wings and Wags Patriot. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being the top supporter tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I appreciate your support. There we go. Hold on.